cars continued westbound on Tampa Road, and the Sebring slowed considerably in the area of Lake St. George Boulevard. At that point, the Explorer, while the Sebring slowed, accelerated at a high rate of speed. And as it continued westbound, the deputy became in a situation where he was in front of the Sebring but still behind the Explorer, and he was not pursuing the Explorer. The deputy made a U-turn on Tampa Road and was heading back eastbound. So if you look at the diagram that we have here, the deputy sees them as they come off of McMullen Booth back here. We get to Lake St. George, and between Lake St. George and US 19 is where the deputy made a U-turn. So the deputy had turned off and was heading back eastbound when the Explorer continued westbound. When the Explorer got to the intersection of US 19 and Tampa Road, it had a red light. And based upon statements made by Keandre Brown, who is the 14-year-old that was in the Explorer, as it approached the intersection of Tampa Road and US 19, the Explorer was traveling at between 120 and 140 miles an hour. He said that they slowed slightly, and the vehicle, which was being driven by his brother, Keandre Brown, went through the intersection when he had a red light at over 100 miles an hour. Additionally, while the vehicle was on Tampa Road, Keandre Brown had turned off all of the lights, so the vehicle was blacked out. Ricky Melendez was driving his 1999 Toyota Camry northbound on US 19 in the middle lane going to work. He had a green light for going northbound on 19 at Tampa Road. When Melendez entered the middle of the intersection, the Ford Explorer at 100 miles an hour plus blacked out, went through the red light, and struck Melendez's vehicle, pushing it northbound into the southbound lanes of US 19. At that point, the Explorer went airborne. It struck at least 5 cars that were parked in the parking lot of the automobile dealership on the northwest corner of US 19 and Tampa Road. There was a huge billboard with a big pole, huge, sitting in the lot of the automobile dealership. So after it hit the 5 cars, airborne, is that it hit that pole at about 10 feet high in the air. It careened off the pole, hit another couple of cars in the parking lot, and then tumbled down Tampa Road, where it caught fire in the middle of the road and came to a stop. Keandre Brown, as I said, was the driver. He was ejected and he died on the roadway. Jimmy Goshi and Jajari Thomas died in the car, and they were trapped by the wreckage. Keandre Brown, the 14-year-old, was also ejected and, as it turns out, received minor injuries. Keandre told us that he was seated in the back on the passenger side and was ejected through the front windshield. There is no doubt from those of you that are out there have seen it that this was a very, very violent wreck, and the amount of force was phenomenal. And according to him, he was seated in the back seat. The amount of force ejected him through the windshield, and the last thing he remembered was just laying in the middle of the road covered in glass. Thomas was the front passenger, and Goshi was seated in the rear behind the driver. After the crash, deputies arrived on the scene. They attempted to extinguish the fire. We're going to show you a video of that. But due to the severity of the wreckage, they were not able to remove Goshi or Thomas from the car. The fire department, emergency medical services responded, treated Keandre Brown. He was transported to Bayfront and then also to the hospital, and it was determined that he received only a concussion. He was released from the hospital this morning, charged with grand theft auto, and booked into the Pinellas Juvenile Assessment Center. At the time Thomas was removed from the crash and from the Explorer, he still had gloves on his hands from committing the burglary. So as these kids were out there and gloved up, and I saw them, and these are the gloves. These are the photos of the actual gloves that Jajari Thomas had on his hands when he died in the back of that Explorer from doing the burglaries. We also found other gloves on the roadway, and they fled so quickly from the scene, from Eastlake Woodlands, and they were going so fast that they didn't take their gloves off. after the Explorer fled, crashed as I've described to you, the Sebring continued westbound the road. And its speed was normal traffic. It really hadn't accelerated. And when it hit US 19 though, it accelerated and it ran the red light at US 19 going southbound. Deputies did not pursue the Sebring, but it was being surveilled by our helicopter. Kegler was driving the Sebring and it was trying to elude the helicopter by driving throughout Dunedin and North Clearwater. Near the intersection of Sunset Point Road and Keene Road, Kegler and Campbell stopped and bailed from the car. Deputies arrived shortly thereafter along with K9, and after a brief foot chase, both were apprehended. Kegler was still wearing one glove when he was caught. So again, in that car as well, they had gloves which they were wearing to commit